So when exactly are you supposed to register your course or your business or product name as a trademark? Or wait, is it your logo that you're supposed to trademark? Oh, this stuff gets so confusing, especially the questions around when you should trademark your course, business name, product name, or anything like that. In today's video, I am smashing all of the when to trademark your stuff questions. I'm Vander, an attorney turned entrepreneur who helps online coaches and service providers legally protect and grow their online brands with my DIY legal templates and my ultimate bundle program. And part of that is making sure that your intellectual property is protected and that your programs and courses are safe from copycats too. You can catch me here each week on YouTube sharing my best legal tips and business advice. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe, ring the bell so you get a notification each time I post a new video. So in this video, I'm going to teach you when to trademark something in your business, including the pros and cons of registering a trademark in your business early or waiting a bit. And before we go, make sure you watch all the way to the end of the video because I'll even give you my best tips for you if you are ready to move forward with a trademark in your business. All right, let's get into it. So first things first, if you're not even sure if the thing that we're here talking about today is trademarkable, like you want to trademark something in your business, but you're like, wait, do I trademark this? Copyright, patent? I don't know. Then you definitely want to go back and watch last week's video, because in last week's video, I broke down the difference between a trademark and a copyright and what the pros and cons were of registering each one. So if you haven't yet, make sure you check out that video. We'll link to it in the description below. So before we get into the when to trademark your stuff conversation, it's always important to remember that if you definitely want to be sure if you should or should not register something for your business, go talk to an intellectual property attorney. They're really the only one who can advise you as to if it's ready, if the time is right for you, if it's too early, too late, anything like that, or if even what you have is trademarkable. So I would definitely talk with an intellectual property attorney if you haven't already. In terms of when you want to think about trademarking something, or to me, I always think about when the time, the bubble should get turning, right? It's really when you're ready to protect some part of your brand, whether that's a tagline, a phrase, a title, a word, right, that you use, a logo, of course, a symbol of some sort, like the Nike swoosh or something like that. So when you are ready to protect some part of your business, some part of your brand, because that thing is so identifiable to you and your brand, and it's worth something to you, and it's valuable enough that you want to protect it, to me, that's when the wheels start turning. Now, of course, some people do this preemptively. They register really early. Big companies who know that things are going to be huge when they go to put them out or something like that, they, spend millions of dollars on researching a tagline or a phrase. They do it early, right away, right? Because they got to get a jump on the competition. However, for a lot of us who are in the online coaching, service providing industry, you might be trying out something, right? You might be trying out a course, trying out some sort of program, and you're not so sure yet whether it's going to be a hit, right? And so we don't necessarily run off and trademark everything. Of course, you could if you want to and you've decided that's what's right for you, but it's not really practical. But also, it's just not what most people do in our industry. What most people do is tend to focus on their core pieces of, programs or content that have a lot of value tied to their brand and that they need to protect in order for other people not to trade off of their brand's identity. So in a nutshell, by registering your trademark, whether it's a phrase, a logo, something like that, you're essentially keeping other people from being able to use it in what's called a confusingly similar way, in a way that's related to the kind of product or service that you provide, right? So I think a common misconception when it comes to trademarks is that when you trademark something, you own the phrase outright, right? No one else can ever utter the phrase no matter what they do. And that's not true. So really you own it for what's called your class. That's the class that you register your trademark for. And somebody else can't use it in a similar way in that same field, right? So we want to think about making sure that someone else, another online coach can't start a course or a program with the same name, for example. The idea really is that your customers, your audience become very familiar with you and this product that you offer, or maybe the logo, depending on what you do. And when they see that, they automatically think of you, right? You're becoming known for this thing, or at least that's what you want it to be. That's the kind of stuff that we trademark, in my humble opinion. And the idea is that when it gets to be that tied to your brand, that somebody could see a phrase or a title of a course and they know like, oh, that's this person's course. That's when we become concerned, especially about somebody trying to rip it off or play off of it by using a similar name to get close to us, right? To make it seem like it's something similar, maybe to confuse people, maybe to pull people in from something like an SEO, like search or something on Google. So that's when we become very concerned and we want to make sure that we have a trademark for our brand, our logo, our business name. So how early can you register a trademark then? Well, actually, you can register it really early. You can register a trademark whenever you want, even before you've started using something. So technically, you can file for a trademark even when you're in development of something. So if you're like coming out with a course, you know you're going to be releasing a product, something like that, you can file. However, when you file a trademark with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, you basically have to file a trademark under one of two bases. It's either an intent to use or already in use basis, right? And when you file a trademark for something that you're not using quite yet, you have to say that you have the intent to use it in commerce. And you actually then have to follow up. You have a time period in which you have to follow up and you actually have to use it or the trademark will lapse, right? So you can file very early, and there's a pro to doing that in the sense that you can file ahead of time so that maybe even when the product comes out, you already have this approved. Although with the trademark timeline approval these days, that's highly unlikely because it takes a very long time to get a full approval from the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Now, I'm definitely not discouraging anybody from being early on the jump or registering a trademark for something even that you maybe just started using or anything like that. But there are a couple of things to be aware of for those of you who are interested in being their early trademark registers, right? So a lot of times what I see in the coaching industry is this really funny phenomenon where, I get like hundreds of messages a week from people, and many of those messages are people who have not started a business yet, who have no clients, who have not generated any money, who have not sold this product, who have not even tested this product to see if anybody even wants this product. And people will write to me and say, I can't start my business yet until I trademark my logo. And it's always those parts that I'm a little like, oh, you don't need to do that, right? So in my opinion, so if it were me, this is not advice because I can't advise you what to do, but if it were me, I would not wait, right, to try to do that as a small business who's not sure yet if things have really panned out in terms of the product, right? So the reason I say that is because so often, and this is just from my personal experience, we start our businesses with a certain logo or a certain tagline, maybe even calling our products a certain thing. And over time, those products, those logos, they evolve, right? And so you'll only get protection for the exact phrase, the exact way, or the exact logo that you register if you go to register your trademark with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And so if you, for example, make a little tweak to your logo after you send it off, now that logo is not protected. So you can probably see why like the original logo for a course that hasn't even been, marketed, developed, created, sold, anything like that is not a reason, in my opinion, to hold back. I personally would not hold back on putting something out there, especially when you know that you can also register as part of, like you could get started, get it out there, get your feet wet, start to see that this is actually something that sells and that you want to sell. And then, if you still wanted to trademark it, you could, right? And this is a conversation that I would have with an intellectual property attorney, right? If you don't believe me, I would sit down with them. And, maybe many attorneys would just tell you to register it because it doesn't matter so much to them. But you could ask them, or be honest with them if you haven't sold something yet, that you're not sure what to do and that you haven't actually proved this product quite yet. And do they think that the time is right? I talk about this stuff a lot, especially on my podcast, On Your Terms, but it's especially true that in the coaching industry, we can sometimes get a little bit stuck in a jam where we focus a lot on these things that we have to get done before we can move forward. And a lot of times people use legal as a little bit of a delay tactic, a shield to not move forward in their businesses. And so I really want you to hopefully watch this entire video so you can decide like, oh, I don't necessarily need to do that right away. Or yes, I can do it right away, but that doesn't mean I can't create the course or put it out there or market it. On the flip side, I see other people wait way too long to register their trademark or maybe just never even do it at all for something that has become their bread and butter, something that they just assume that they were well known for. And it's something that I see all the time where it just feels like it's this like flip flop where I see a lot of people who do it way too early. and who put off developing their businesses because of it. And then I see all these people who are like super successful and they never took the steps. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you have to understand what the risks are of doing so. So what are the risks of doing that? Well, the risk is that if your course or your product or whatever becomes a little bit bigger and then it becomes more difficult to enforce, you don't have access to federal courts and additional damages, all the things that I talked about that are the benefits of registration in last week's video. But you don't want to wait until something gets so big that it's hard to wrangle it in and to apply for a trademark. Now, however, if you do wait, if you have been selling something, when you apply for a trademark, you get to tell them when the first date was of use in commerce. So even if you registered today, but you started using something in 2017, you could tell the United States Patent and Trademark Office what date you started using it, and you can backdate your protection and also establish first use. So with patents, they have what's called a first file system. So essentially it's this race to file, right? The way I always think about it are like two scientists who are crazily working on something, and it's a race to file for a patent. And whoever files first wins, even if the other person had thought of the idea first, right? It doesn't matter. So that's patents. And a lot of people mistakenly think that that system applies to trademarks and copyrights as well. With trademarks and copyrights, it's actually a first to use basis. So that's the most important factor when it comes to trademarks. It's who's been using it in commerce the longest, right? So it's not just that, somebody jumps the line and they file for a trademark now. If you can establish that you've been using it longer, you still win. So as you can see, I'm that annoying lawyer person who's telling you like there is no right answer, because unfortunately, as I learned in law school, there usually isn't an exact answer, right? No one's going to say to you on the 16th day of your business, that's when you should register a trademark, or when you sell 20 courses, that's when you should register a trademark. It's more about understanding what the benefits are of even registering in the first place, what you're giving up by not registering, and then what options you have now if you want to take them, right? So even if you've been selling something, you can go register it. Maybe you also understand after this video that you don't necessarily need to be in a race to file a trademark when you're first just starting out your business and you don't even have any customers or really have a business yet. It's usually not one or the other. It's somewhere in the middle, like most things in life. So just to recap, if it were me, I would say that when something was, kind of proven to me, a product was proven to me, I would definitely open up that conversation, start looking at how much does it cost to trademark this? Is it even trademarkable? What is the likelihood that this thing will get approved? And those are all questions that your own intellectual property attorney can answer for you. Because one of the things that happens when you contact an intellectual property attorney to ask them to register a trademark for you is that they will do a trademark search. And a trademark search is more robust than just looking on the United States Patent and Trademark website, right? So when I was a practicing attorney, we had access to additional tools and to companies who did really intensive searches for us. And customers or clients would hire us at that time to look into the likelihood that there would be any sort of challenge or objection to this trademark getting approved. So that's really what you're paying an attorney for to do for you in the beginning. So often people come to me asking about their own stuff to be, protected, or they want to see like, how can I get this trademarked? How can I get this thing copyrighted? And so often I have to explain to them that they have to be just as concerned about, in the beginning, making sure that they are not infringing on somebody else's mark first, right? So that's often the first step. And that's what an intellectual property attorney will help you do. They will do that search. And although they can't guarantee anything because it is a very subjective process to get a trademark approved, because it goes to an individual, what they call an examining attorney. And that examining attorney at the United States Patent and Trademark Office actually has the authority to decide, right, on whether or not your thing gets approved. So it's a pretty subjective process, surprisingly. Your attorney will do his or her best to tell you, what they think is the likelihood of the outcome. And those are really the next steps that I would take if you think, okay, I've got this program name. It's really unique. It doesn't infringe on anybody else's. I want to protect it because it's really going to be part of my brand's identity. Then I would reach out to an attorney near you and get that process started. Shop around, ask for good rates, see what you can get, understand what they all include in their rate, right? Is it just the filing? What I would ask them is if they respond to office actions after the filing. That's what you want to ask them, the attorney. Because typically the United States Patent and Trademark Office will issue a couple of what they call office actions, where they'll come back with a couple of letters asking you questions or to change certain things, and you want to make sure that that's included in your trademark registration fee, or if not, how much it will be. So, and also you want to ask them about renewals. So you have to keep up with trademarks once they've been registered. You can ask your attorney, do they calendar those registrations for you? Do they make sure that they're taken care of? And then you want to, as a extra safe backup method, calendar it for yourself so that you make sure that you follow up with those renewals on your registration, because you don't want to let it lapse. So in working with thousands and thousands of online coaches and creatives, I can tell you that what happens more often than not are stolen pieces of mini content, right? Like pieces of Instagram content, YouTube content, whatever other kind of content. And so I want to make sure that you know how to keep copycats off of your content, which is why I created my 5 steps to legally protect and grow your online business free legal training. You can click the link in the description below to watch it. And in that free 1-hour training, I teach you how to keep copycats off of your content, as well as how to use contracts to protect yourself in your business, how to make sure that your website is legally protected, how to formally register your business, what you need to do if you're an LLC already, and so much more. So click the link in the description below to watch my free legal workshop. And until then, I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.